Thanks a lot for coming in.
Good morning. Happy to be here.
Something about this community appeals to you?
This is a wonderful place to live.
For Kelowna Now, this is Kent Mulgat.
And we're joined by Cheryl Seidenberg, the Tobacco Reduction Coordinator for Interior Health in this area. We spoke about vaping a year ago. What's happened in the last year? Is the problem easing or?
No, sadly, the problem is a little bit more worrisome. We're seeing tobacco, cigarette rates climb for British Columbia, and we're also seeing e-cigarette use
Hold on a second. All this vaping, this is supposed to be a safer alternative to cigarettes, but you're saying even as use of these vaping products has increased, so has smoking.
Yes. So British Columbia used to hold the title of the lowest smoking rate in Canada. We are now at position number 5. So we're seeing increases in the use of tobacco for anybody over the age of 15. And also now with the vaping, especially with the youth, it is a huge concern. In the US, for example, they're seeing increases of 80% in use. And in Canada, we're not that far behind, probably around 60% increase in use of vapor products.
Wow. So let's back up to that to that smoking thing for a minute. What's your sense? Are people starting with vaping, getting some nicotine, and that's leading to smoking? Is that the trajectory?
Well, that's a good question. And, you know, the evidence is showing that if you're using tobacco products, it could lead to vaping, especially I'm talking about youth now. And also with vaping products, it could lead to tobacco use or other substance use. So we're starting to see these studies emerge. We need more credible studies and we need more long-term studies so that we can really see over time. We have to remember that these vaping products are still fairly new, 2003 roughly, but now what's really been the game changer is this product, which is called the Juul. And so in 2015 in the United States, this little product, which is called a Juul, the youth refer to it not so much.
It looks like just a USB stick.
Yeah, the youth refer to it more so as juuling versus vaping. You mentioned USB stick. Well, here's a traditional USB stick, about the same size, same end. So what's happening, this is you charge it in the computer with a little bit of a charger, and in it goes like this. Oh, sorry, wrong end. There we go. So it goes into the computer. So what we have is youth basically charging these devices. And the question is, are parents recognizing that this is a device that probably has nicotine in it?
You can't tell whether they're doing their homework or preparing to vape.
Yeah. And that's really worrisome.
So it's gotten more stealth. So, it was pretty easy when you could just find that in their drawer.
Right. This is the tank system. So the juice or the nicotine is dropped into here. A little bigger, heavier device, a little bit more recognizable as a vape, a tank system. But this, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Put your hand out for a minute. Close your hand.
I can make it disappear.
Yeah. And that's what the kids are doing.
Yeah.
In schools, in classrooms, they're able to basically stealth vape, hide it, and take hits of it.
And I note that right on the package, it's got the nicotine warning, right? Mm-hmm. So if a young person is vaping, chances are they're taking in nicotine.
Most likely, yes. And the big question is, how much nicotine are they taking in? In the US, when we look at these products, there's a lot of discussion around the amount of nicotine that is in these products because it's very high. So in the US, they really want to say you can only put this amount in these devices, but that has not happened yet. So with the nicotine, again, you're stepping into an addiction. That much we do know. But the question is these other little pieces of the devices. So in the tank system, a lot of people are buying different e-substances, e-juices that have a mix of product in them. In these Juul devices, this is called a pod. This is mint flavored, and this goes into the end of this device. And basically, it's equivalent to about 200 cigarettes. So the kids are getting such a hit just with one little pod.
Right.
So
really, they could ingest nicotine more efficiently, or even more, using a vape than they would smoke. They have a hard time smoking in that much nicotine.
yeah, they're getting such a direct hit, and they call it a hit. Like, I'm getting a really big hit.
So you'll get young teenagers that are dizzy from the nicotine intake that they're getting.
Absolutely, yeah, dizzy, nauseous. You have other youth, unfortunately, purchasing these products and selling to their younger friends. So we're seeing this in the schools and trying to get on top of things like
Right.
that. So it's a real problem in the classrooms for the teachers, for the school districts.
So sometimes this nicotine ingestion will actually make it more difficult for them to learn. It's interfering with their cognition.
Yeah, I would definitely say so. But it's also, again, when you have an addiction, it's something that you need. So it's definitely going to be interrupting their thought processes, because it's like, no, I need to, before we would say with cigarettes, I need to get outside and have a smoke, right?
Right.
Well, they're not going outside. They're going to the bathrooms, the washrooms, anywhere, sitting in classroom, doing the
Right.
stealth vaping. So they're hiding it, but it is interfering with their what we
Right.
would call day-to-day
So
school
I'm hearing
activity.
from you a lot of concern about the fact that, you know, there's just this addiction that's building, and then we get to, okay, what are they addicted to? And there's where some of the actual harmful impacts of some of this material comes into play.
Right.
And there was just a study that came out in recent weeks from Harvard, I believe it was, and it was pointing out that in the cases of just a few of these flavorings that they studied, were the very same flavorings that, while they may be considered safe to ingest, like to eat, in a popcorn plant where they were applying the flavor to the popcorn, they had to, because there was health problems emerging, they had to put up warning signs that through their process, when you're heating this stuff up, the vapor is not safe.
Right.
And yet that very stuff is going into vapes.
Yes. It's the diacetyl, from what I'm understanding. Now, I'm not an expert on chemicals at all, but what I can say is that there needs to be a base for these flavorings and these liquids to kind of live within. So there's the flavoring, and then the propylene glycol that holds the flavoring and substances. So basically, we are, if you're using these products, you are ingesting these chemicals. We know that, again, what you're talking about with the popcorn lungs are being irritated. So, I mean, even that in itself is not a good thing. But again, looking down the road, what are going to be the chronic pieces of this, the illnesses that come in the long term, that we can't say definitively yet, but we can probably make some pretty good
Right.
guesses around it. So we want to keep these vapor products out of the hands of youth. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
Well, then how do you feel if you drive by KSS along Raymer, just right where the buses pull up? There is a big crowd and they are vaping. Should the schools not allow that? What's the best way forward?
Well, basically, these are not, again, I'm going to say legislated or policy, school policy. So these are not allowed on school property up until, the end of high school. So it is that's already in the legislation. But we can see, it is still happening. The smoke pit has become the vape pit. There's kids, again, vaping whatever. And again, remember that there could be other things in these devices than just nicotine or flavors. Then you get into the cannabis. When you have schools, it can be people from everywhere who come together and congregate. So, I mean, the question is, what do we do and how do we deal with it?
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure that out, honestly. We work very closely with the school districts. We work with public health nurses going into the schools, working with the kids, bringing lots of awareness to these devices. There's so many myths, and the youth themselves, and again, I want to back this back even to like grade 5 or 6. Like, these are young middle school kids, you know, bringing an awareness to them, really going to have some critical thinking around these products. Right. What's in them? What's it doing to my body?
Okay, hang on, just back up a little bit here. Now, when we did this last year, there was some pretty angry pushback on our conversation.
Yes.
From some people who say, you know what, I was addicted to cigarettes, and vaping helped me get off the cigarettes, and I owe my health to that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of stuff that's not known about vaping, and we're just filling that with fear. You know, is there anything to that?
I guess what I want to say to that, again, it depends, are we talking about youth or adults? So I'm going to jump into the adult side, because we know that many adults, if they're really trying to quit cigarettes and combustible products, they may turn to vapor products to quit. The question is, are they still smoking cigarettes at the same time? Are they doing more than one thing? If they are really using it to quit, we are seeing that some people do have successes. But on the other flip side of this, what I need to say is that vapor products in Canada are not an approved quit device. So we still tend, if people want to quit smoking or vaping, we still reroute them basically back to the patch, gum, lozenge, right, and the things that have been approved here in this country.
So it's still not by, you know, officialdom considered the right way to stop smoking.
Yeah.
But I think you're acknowledging that for some people that might be their route. But your concern is not so much for that group of people. It's there's 12 and 13-year-olds getting addicted to vaping, which may or may not lead to smoking, but it's certainly leading to products getting into their lungs, some of which we know are harmful.
Yeah. So for youth, I mean, again, I want to say, if you don't smoke, don't start vaping thinking that it's a better thing to do or a good place to start, because it may again become this vicious cycle and lead you into tobacco, right, or other products.
So this is the main update since our last interview,
yeah,
is that these things have gotten even more difficult to discern. This looks like that could be the kids' homework. You know, and
absolutely.
And so something else to watch out for. But we'll talk again in another year, see if things have gotten any better. Sadly, I'm not hopeful. And it does seem to be going in the wrong direction.
Well, the other piece of this is the marketing to youth. So right now, Health Canada is working on a consultation where they're saying, you know, what kind of things do we really need to put out there to parents, to youth, to bring up the awareness, the education, and the knowledge, and you know what should be on the advertising. Does it need to say nicotine? Do we need to keep these products behind the counter like we do with tobacco? So if anywhere that a youth goes and visits, like a mall, 7-Eleven, any kind of convenience store, are these things like out there on the counter, bright and shiny and all kinds of wonderful flavors, or are they put away like tobacco products are as well? So it's all those kinds of pieces that, you know, we're just not quite there yet. We're getting there, but there's still so much work to be done. I guess that's a fair thing to say, and it's going to take a lot of people to really combat what we are seeing, and this particular device is wreaking havoc.
Right. Well, thanks for staying on it, and thanks for coming in. And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.